I'm going to start a bit differently today because I think probably because the event industry is quite close to my heart too, because that has been my career as well for a number of years. And I'm going to read a letter that was sent from somebody in the event industry. Actually, I imagine, Jemma, you can read me, it was to Jeremy Corbyn.
No, it was to Jeremy Hunt.
Oh, it was to Jeremy Hunt. Okay, dear Jeremy Hunt. Or we could name it Dear Jeremy or Dear Boris or whoever, but it's a letter to a minister. And I praised it a bit. Dear Jeremy, my name is Harry. We've not met, but my friends and I have been with you for most of your life. Remember those pantos you went to as a child? That was us. And as you grow up, the bands you went to see, that was us as well. As you matured, you went to concerts, plays, the opera. We are the people who did all of that too. We designed, built and painted the magnificent sets, hauled on ropes backstage to create those wonderful scene changes. We worked overnight, filling 40-foot trucks and emptying more as we switched one opera for another. The following morning, the team of stage managers preset the props and marshaled the 40 members of the chorus while the leads warmed up to rehearse for the evening's performance. Of course, you'll realise I haven't mentioned the lighting crew, who focused overnight, nor the bustle of wardrobe ladies who packed away one set of costumes and prepared the new ones, the cleaners who made the venue shine again, the bar staff replenishing the stocks for the pre-show and interval drinks. I know there were so many more friends I've missed. As your career moved into politics, my friends and I have been there. My friend almost single-handedly and miraculously extended the stage overnight at last year's party conference. Backstage, my friend put a radio mic on you. Out front of house, his friend tweaked the levels at a desk as you spoke, so the world could hear you. Another friend told the backstage crew when to bring up the lights, when to switch the camera, when to bring up your mic. My video and production friend spent hours balancing the images on the screens, adjusting the cameras, tweaking the projectors to make sure you all look natural for the press. All that happens because a horde of other friends spent months in the planning, making graphics, doing print runs, jumping through hoops to make everything right. What about all of those after parties you attended, film premieres, gala dinners, fashion shows, product launches and banquets? That was us too. And the brand activations, stands at train stations, exhibitions, weddings that you attended, the list goes on. Planning, designing, project managing and producing. From the 70s to today, the UK has led the world in events. The world comes to us for our expertise, our passion, for the commitment and experience we have to put on some of the most startling extravaganzas ever seen, and still be humble enough to produce a conference for 50 people in a Heathrow hotel. It's Excel Conference Centre, it's the NEC, it's the O2, it's Manchester Central, the Crucible, the BICC, the ICC, the countless hotels. It's the summer festival circuit. It's the winter gardens in Blackpool. We are everywhere. We are the thousands of people that make these events, conferences, concerts, spectaculars and shows, the New Year's Eve fireworks happen. Hundreds of my friends gave you the Commonwealth Games. Thousands of my friends worked ridiculously long hours to give you the Olympic ceremonies. So the event industry work brings in £70 billion into the UK economy, and it employs, when everyone isn't furloughed or not working or unemployed at present, 60,000 people. So it is a huge, sorry, Jemma, you're right, 600,000 people.
Yeah, so that's
I missed that on 600,000 people. It is a huge industry, and as we say, brings a hell of a lot of money into the UK economy. So I'd like to welcome two women who have been in this industry together for over 30 years. Campbell, who is an event director based in London with 18 years experience working in the experiential fashion and media industries. She specialises in outdoor events, launches, parties, conferences, awards, anything really. And she's produced events all over the world. And she set up her own company 5 years ago. She's also on the board of the charity Eventwell, which is a mental health and wellbeing voice for the event industry. And Jemma Hewson, a production manager who has worked in a wide range of events, from the Olympic torch relay, sports events, festivals and full brand activations, also more corporate conferences, tours and roadshows for her honestly, and I know this from experience, no big is too job. No job is too big or too small. So I'm going to start by, so that's a summary in the nutshell of the industry, but I'm going to start now by asking them a few questions, and then it'll be open up to you guys on the chat to ask your questions. I'm sorry, I'm just going to close the door. I'll go first to Faye. Tell us what you do in a nutshell, what your role and what
in a nutshell. Yeah, I mean, you sort of touched on it briefly in the introduction, but I guess I would say I'm an event director, and I've worked for various different event companies in my time, which we can get into in a bit later. But I set up on my own 5 years ago. I work on my own, but I employ lots of contractors and freelancers. And I work either directly with a brand to help them produce an event, or sometimes with an event agency. So yeah, and I can be involved in everything from brief to evaluation, sometimes paid on a day rate if a client wants me to take on a smaller part of an event, such as branding or logistics. But yeah, I think that kind of summarises it.
What about you, Jemma?
So I'm a production manager. So my role is similar to Faye, but I'm more of I will manage a project once it has been creatively, once the ideas come up with and they've worked out what they want to do and where they want to do it, I will often pick it up and work out how we deliver something. So what suppliers we use, how much it's going to cost is one of my main functions, is to take, either your client tells you they've got £100 and that's all they've got and you have to work out how to do it, or they say, how much is this going to cost? And you tell them it's going to cost £1,000, and then they tell you, I've got £100. So you work out how to make that happen. And then I will do all the logistics around, on a bigger job, around how you get that to a site. So if it's a festival site, you're in a field in the middle of nowhere, how we get crew there, how we get the kit there, how we feed people, where they sleep, everything, all the logistics around how it happens. And then I'm responsible on the whole for their safety on site and how it runs when the event is live, so when the public are there.
Cool. So so you have both explained this a bit, but because obviously the event industry is so large, can you explain how the roles or what you do fit into the larger event industry? Faye, do you want to say that first?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I would see myself as I fulfill a need or a role for a larger brand or corporation who doesn't have an event department themselves. So they would come to me with a brief of something they would like to launch or a party, and I will then run with that brief and work with teams to come up with creative and concepts and kind of produce the event for them. And in an agency environment, it might be that, again, they're super busy and they've had so many event briefs in, and their in-house teams just don't have enough people. So they again will hand that over to me to kind of run with and manage. And I guess for me as well, sort of setting up a company on my own by myself, I don't employ anyone. And the reason that I kind of do that is I can be quite flexible with my clients. I can be quite cost effective. But because of the experience I've had with other agencies, I still have the same kind of contacts. So I can still provide the same service. But I kind of enjoy the fact that I can give my clients a bit more of the personal touch, I guess. Yeah, I think that's probably me. Yeah.
What about you, Jem?
So I'm similar to Faye. I tend to work into event agencies. For some reason, not many production managers are employed by event agencies. And I think it's because of the kind of people we are. We don't necessarily want to be employed. We want to be freelance, so we can pick and choose the projects we work on. So I very much will work on a project, and I won't work on a client relationship and building client relationships, which is what agencies do. Having said that, I have been a client services director in an event agency, where you are the face of the agency. You go and talk to clients and say, what about this idea? Or we've had that idea. And I have done that for a couple of years, but what I really enjoy doing and what I'm good at is delivering an event on site. So I will when an agency has got an event or an end client, so I work for Sky TV, the Sky Broadcasting, when they've got something they want delivered, they've got amazing resource in-house, all TV and film, but they don't have live event resource in-house. So I will go and sit in their offices, which are the best offices in the world, to sit in, much better than my upstairs attic bedroom, and work with them, but to deliver a project.
Okay, so why don't you guys give us a bit of a potted history of how you got into your careers, and how you kind of accessed this industry. Do you want to, Jemma, you go first.
So mine's a bit of a roundabout way. So I qualified as a solicitor, and just went down completely the wrong career route. And so took a couple of years off and saved up some money and went traveling and ended up working in hospitality out in Africa for a couple of years. And I kind of loved hospitality, but hospitality, so working in hotels, is full on because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're putting on a show, really. It's a bit like a mini event. And where I was, every day there was stuff going on, but really fun. And I really loved doing stuff that made people think, wow, I've never experienced this before. Or wow, that's an incredible day. I've done this. And that is the people at the hotel that did that for us. When I came back to England, I thought I would love to work in something like hospitality, but is not day in, day out, the same. And I thought, okay, I'll go into events. And I had no idea when I went into events that there are so many events. I think I'd been to a wedding, and I'd probably been to a conference when I was a solicitor, and I thought, oh, I don't really want to go into conferences. That's really boring. I will go into, I want to, have good parties, make parties. That is one tiny, tiny bit of events. And actually parties are the bit that are probably the least fun because they don't have the big money that brands have got to play and really push the boundaries on what we do. And I was super lucky. I know the Talent Tap is all about growing your network. I met someone who was looking for a project manager to launch a new venue in London. I'd got a job, a really not very exciting job in a small events company. For that, organising meetings. So to have meetings for 12 people with drug companies. It's really dry, but it's a massive industry, the pharmaceutical events industry. And I knew that wasn't the job for me, but I was doing it as an entry-level job to, get something on my CV and to be able to talk about it and understand a bit about the events industry. I then met someone who was looking to recruit to launch a venue. And that venue happened to be the O2, which is now the world's busiest music venue. And I was very lucky. They took a bit of a punt on me. They could see that I didn't have event experience, but I had lots of the skills that are needed. And they'd been looking for the right person for ages and couldn't find that right person. And it was just by chance that I got in there. I had a great support team around me. There is no way you can go in and do a multi-million-pound project having never done an event before. But, events are about teamwork. So I wasn't in there as the main project manager knowing everything. I had a top stage guy and a top production manager, which is what I do now. All the roles that Naomi talked about at the beginning, we had them: sound men, lighting men, logistics people, and we launched the O2 with 17,000 O2 staff members and their partners, and it was a massive project. And that was my first ever project, and I don't think I've ever done one as big or as time-consuming since. But that was my way in, and from there, that project, I could see all the different jobs that people did, and I saw production manager, and I was like, that's what I want to be doing. But it gave me the insight to see what was out there and what there is to do. And I think, just quickly before we go to Faye, that there's such a range of jobs in the event industry that you can't from the very beginning say, oh, I want to do that, unless you're really into design and you're like, I know I want to be a 3D designer for event infrastructure. You know, that's something probably you will know now if you're studying design at A level or whatever. But, you know, I think it's one of those industries you've got to go in and do 6 months here and 6 months there, try it out, look and see what everyone else is doing and just ask questions. And when you've got 10 minutes where you're not doing something, go and chat to the lighting guy and say, oh, can I come up there with you and learn about, you know, those lights you're fitting or whatever it is, because then you might find the thing that you really want to do.
What about you then, Faye? What's your, and how did you get into it?
Wow, yeah, how did I start? I mean, quite similarly, when I was at university, I studied journalism, and I was convinced I was going to write features. That was what I wanted to do, and I didn't even know events was an option. I did some work experience at a publishing house. I worked on a teenage magazine. I did that for a few weeks, and I think just by building contacts, a job came. I mean, obviously I wasn't being paid at the time, you know, at the beginning you just have to kind of get that experience, don't you? And a job came up as a project assistant in the event department, which was upstairs, and I was like, oh, okay, what's this all about? Didn't really know anything about it. Went, applied, got the job. I mean, initially they kind of had the role, and then they said, oh no, we've had budget cuts and we can't do it. But by that time I was excited about it. So I just took the risk and said, I'll still do it for free. Absolutely fine. I'm not being paid anything anyway. So we'll crack on. And it was working on something that was called the Smash It Polnas Party, which I guess it's a teenage version of the Brits, I guess. And it was at Wembley Arena. And I mean, that fits like 10,000 people. And getting to work, and again, as Jem said, you know, I was a project assistant. I wasn't really responsible for very much. I was packing goodie bags and doing spreadsheets and doing schedules and all that kind of stuff. But I love doing stuff like that. You know, I think at events you've got to be really organised and just like anal, see the bigger picture. And I just kind of got a real buzz from it. And then we worked on this event for, you know, almost a year, and then to sort of be at Wembley and see it all come to life, that was my first kind of like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you just have such a feeling of, you know, the team is so important in events. You know, it's not, an event isn't done by one person, it's done by, you know, it might be a team of 3, it could be a team of thousands, you know, everyone input and got a room for it. And I guess, I mean, I could spend hours going through everything I've done. I'll try and speed it up. And then after that, I decided that I think sort of getting lots of different experience as well is really key when you're starting, because you don't really know what area you want to go into. So I decided to then go and work for an event agency, and that's very different to working in-house, as we call it, which is when you kind of work for a brand and you do events directly for that brand. But if you go for an agency, they then have lots of different clients. I went to work for this agency in Soho in central London, and there were 4 of us in a room. That was very different to an office of thousands of people. But I learned so much during that time. I learned so much about finances, about running a company, about being involved. You know, we all chipped in and everything. No one was bigger than than the next person. And at that time, I worked on a lot of festivals, and we launched Virgin Media. So that was a really good insight. And then I kind of went on to other event agencies after that. A couple of them, I wanted to get a bit more international experience. So I went for an agency that had an office in New York, and I did a big cocktail festival for them. I worked in some of the fashion industry at a trend forecaster. And as I'm kind of stepping up in different jobs, obviously you're going from a project assistant to a producer to a senior producer to an event director. You kind of just progress your career, and you end up managing teams at the end and being a lot more responsible. But by that time, you've got more experience, so you do feel more confident. And I think the more companies you work in and the more events you do and the more hands-on you get, obviously the more confident you get. And I kind of, before I started to work for myself, I did a full 360. And my last job was a temporary role, as sort of doing someone's maternity cover back at the media company I'd started at. But I was running the team at that point, so that was a really sort of nice way to end my full-time contract, and looking after a lot of awards, Q Awards, Grazia, Events of Grazia, Empire Awards, Kerrang Awards, lots of awards. And then that contract ended, which I knew it would, and my past employers started to ask me to do events for them. One of the fashion company I worked for, I did an award ceremony for them, and I just found that all the contacts I'd built up in that, and it was 10 years, however long I'd been in it, then start to sort of get in contact with you and ask you, oh, actually, can you help me do this with your experience? I know you do a good job. And it's all about sort of building up your reputation, I think, and building up your contacts. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That's nice.
I take one thing from what you said, Faye, actually, and I'm just thinking about my career and just a bit of advice to people. As when I went to university, I got involved in the university charity, which is RAG, and I think you have RAG in a number of different universities. And I produced the university fashion show for a couple of years, and then organised all the kind of university balls off the back of that, and all the balls, and organised our art history. I studied art history, so the art history ball. And I think that that's really interesting for employers to look at if they see that, because there are so many opportunities to organise events at university, and if you're really interested in it, it's quite an interesting thing that employers might be look at or might be really interested in. I would say, especially
student unions as well.
Yeah,
sorry.
Exactly, in the student union or whatever. I think that if you're not studying an events degree, there's so many ways that you can get involved in doing events, not at university without studying a degree in events. It would be interesting if one of you could give a bit more information on all the different areas of the event industry, because although you say, Faye, you say about you do more event management, and Jemma does event production, but there are obviously a lot of different areas, be it in-house, out-of-house, venue, etc. Could somebody give more of a broader explanation of the industry?
Okay.
To me too. Yeah, I mean, as Jem sort of mentioned earlier, I think when people think, people always go to me when I work in events, they go, oh, you must be really busy, it's summer, loads of weddings, because people just instantly presume you do parties and weddings, and that's all they think. But obviously it's very varied. We've said with conferences, outdoor events, Jem's touched on that before, but that kind of means there's lots of different roles in the event industry. You don't have to be an event manager. There's catering companies. You can work with them as an event manager. We work with set designers, or 3D, if someone comes to me with a brief and they want to do an installation at a festival, sometimes clients need some help with their imagination. So we have someone create a visual of the set and our concept and design. Someone obviously designs that for us. So that's a really interesting area to get into. You can work with a specific production company, work with light, sound, AV. If you're into the real sort of decorative, pretty things, you can have set designers, florists. There's lots of different roles. I'm trying to think. I mean, gosh,
then there's all the technology ones.
Technology, yeah.
I work with loads, and Faye does as well, lots of technology companies who are every day, and especially at the moment while people aren't working, are coming up with just brilliant or aren't doing live events, are coming up with brilliant ways of doing interesting interactive technological things, either online or in the world before Corona, sort of in real life. So when you come into your local train station and there's someone with a stand, there might be some clever way that they're engaging with you via your phone and apps, and all the app development side. There's just a massive range of things that all links into live events, and I can sort of wrap it in with brand experience. So every consumer brand out there is marketing and PRing out to their consumers, to us. So whether it's Coca-Cola or the big ones that spend lots of money are all the alcohol brands, they spend a lot of money on marketing and PR, old school advertising, but increasingly they spend their money on doing live experiences or digital experiences to engage their consumers, to engage us, to make us buy the products. And that is what comes across my desk and Faye's desk sort of every day as we need ideas on how to do this, we want to do this, how can we make it work? And those are the exciting projects that we enjoy. I think both of us, I've worked with Faye a bit, I've worked for Faye and with Faye, but that we enjoy doing, and that is the wider industry. Ultimately, all events are done to share knowledge and to share information. So whether it's by marketing or for companies sharing knowledge to their staff or to their students, or to, you know, to their customers. And that's what events are for, other than private events, which are the parties and the weddings, which are, you know, a party.
And also, I think you guys were mentioning you both obviously worked in agencies, or for yourselves as freelancers, but obviously there are many opportunities to work in-house for larger companies that have their own events teams. Many of the banks have their own events teams that organise events and conferences for the banks themselves. They might bring in somebody like Faye or Jemma to actually put on the nuts and bolts of the conference, but getting people to the conference and organising all the delegate side of things can be done in-house. Also, of course, venues have events teams.
So
as well.
hotels, I think, is a big event thing, especially if you don't live in a major city with an events agencies. But every city, town has a hotel with conference facilities, and those hotels are, you know, they're the bread and butter of our industry, is their spaces, their conferences. On the weekends, they're used for weddings. In the week time, they're used for conferences and business parties and team building days and all the stuff that, you know, happens everywhere around the country. And there's loads of opportunities. It's a great way of getting into events, is getting a job as a temporary. Most of the staff we work with at hotels are temporary staff. So they're either students or they do something else in the day, but then they're working at the hotel on the days that they can, pulling together events for the hotel.
Yeah, so that's it. So obviously many of our students don't work in London and obviously don't have the opportunities to work for free. And nowadays I mean, you know, we are, Faye and Jemma, a tad older than some of the people we're talking to. And I think now that we really do push to not be working for free and doing it all for free. Definitely. But as they say, there are so many opportunities in every town to start in the event industry and gain experience and that can lead you on and to bigger things. And networking is incredibly important as well. In that you meet events companies that come into these hotels if you're working in a hotel, and you think, oh, I like that event, then find the person that's in charge and talk to them. That's always really helpful.
And hang out there, because I think a lot of, I don't know, this is a lot of people working on events in hotels probably don't have a huge amount to do once the event company moves in. And the ones who are interested and want to network, well, their job that day is to be overseeing what we're doing. The ones that are interested will always be around and be chatting to you and saying, oh, how are you doing that? Or I've not seen it done like that before. That's a great idea. Or they'll say, oh, look, that works, but I saw someone do it this way last week. Why didn't you try that? And, you know, I'm always open to people who work somewhere. They know more about the place than I do. And those interested ones, the ones that chat with you, the ones that come and sit with you when you're having lunch, or, you know, bring their coffee over and say, oh, do you mind if I sit down with you? They're the ones that you remember. And when they phone you up the next week or drop you an email on LinkedIn, you're like, oh yeah, I remember you. Oh, you're looking for a job, you know, whatever it is. But it's just, you know, being open and chatty, because events are all about relationships from the very top of events, from, you know, a big client wanting someone to deliver their event. Will they go to an agency that they don't really know, but that's got a good reputation? Will they go to an agency they know really well, but they've had a bad experience with? Or will they come straight to someone like me or Faye, but they know really well and they know they're going to deliver? I mean, they could do any of the three, but they'll go with the me or the Faye or the someone they've got a really good relationship with. Or if they have to, for business reasons, go with the agency with the good reputation, that's what they will do. And it goes from there all the way down, because the events are based, for good or for bad, on a very freelance model. Those relationships all the way down. So from me to the guys that I employ who aren't entry level anymore. But 10 years ago, I had a phone book full of people who were entry level events, who were keen that when I needed 5 people on site, I could go through my phone book and phone them up. And that's where you guys need to be if you're interested, even with no experience. Just making sure you start getting into people's phone books and you know, following them up on LinkedIn and having a little look at different areas of what you might be interested in, because that's, you know, one day I'll be there, I need tomorrow, and it's really short notice, a lot of it, and it may or may not work. But in your local area, just, you know, get out there to the hotels and the venues, you know, the small music venues that might need bar staff or door staff or whatever it is. There's always a way in.
Exactly. A lot of towns do local events as well. I mean, where I live, they did a local fete, and I was really interested in events, so I just contacted them and helped out there. And social media, I think, is really important. So I get a lot of people that contact. I use Instagram a lot, and I get a lot of people that ask me questions, and I think that's really important if you're really into events, and it kind of helps you to find what area you're into. Follow people that you like, look at what they're doing, look at their pictures, message them directly and ask them questions, because people are happy to give you advice. They know how hard it is to get into this industry.
That's good. So yeah, that on that note, obviously you said that you said about using Instagram as a way forward, and Jemma, you mentioned LinkedIn. Are there any other kind of industry routes in? We talked about the film industry last year, and there were a couple of things they said. There's a thing called the Knowledge or something else. Are there other kind of websites and things you can get onto to find jobs and events?
So,
or, you know,
I think one of the very best, and message me afterwards and I'll get you in, is there's a couple of Facebook groups that are really good, and that's where I will go first when I need help with something. There's one called Event Productions, which was set up by an old assistant of mine. So if you need help, I think he just gets busy. He's less busy now. But also he doesn't let in anyone, because it gets snarled up with people advertising their goods. But so Event Productions, there's one called Delegate Wranglers, which has got 40,000 people on it, and there's another one, but actually it's probably not as good for you. There's one called Live Events Freelance Society, but
I'm not sure
that's more senior. But Event Productions and Delegate Wranglers, and I know Josh, who's on the call, has got work through Event Productions. I think it was that one. And they're often on the hunt out for people, and you just got to be quick and say, I'm there, I can do it.
And what about any other kind of like Instagrams or blogs or anything that you can follow that's really insightful? Any ones in particular?
I think not so much getting into the industry, but I was talking about this the other day with someone. We were doing a presentation on how you pitch for business, but what you guys can do and what I can do, but actually I guess I've got to a point where I don't necessarily want to be doing this, but I really want. There's so much cool stuff going on in the UK, and if you guys have got your finger on the pulse of what is cool that's going on, you are advising us on what, you know, millennials or Generation X are wanting to do, because I don't know what young music festival goers really want to do, but you guys might do. I don't know what university students are going to engage with, but you guys might do. And if, you know, there's so much stuff on the internet, on Time Out, Pinterest, loads of cool stuff happening on Pinterest. And then there's other magazines. I don't know if you have to subscribe to them, but like Wallpaper magazine is like all the latest cool design stuff. There's an event magazine, which I don't know if you have to pay for. I don't get it. But it's got, or Campaign magazine have loads of what people are doing. And if you spend 10 minutes a day or half an hour a week, just seeing what has happened in the last week that's super cool, that you think that would have been really fun to see or do. You don't have to have been to see it or done it, but just read about it and know that it happened. You know, the latest fashion shows, what happened in them? What was their staging like? What were the models wearing? You know, fashion really drives what all of us, how we are marketed to by wider brands and companies. That is what we are then going to sort of turn around and say, whatever. I mean, I don't really know my fashion, but, you know, Chanel did this year. They have the money, they're spending, they're doing the best things with technical production that you can do. And so if they're doing something cool, I'm pretty sure that your client's going to want to do something, because, you know, they want to follow behind people who are doing the best.
Yeah, I mean, I follow quite, I mean, on Instagram, I follow quite a lot of brands, like fashion brands and people like that. I find that interesting, or just follow hashtags like event design. You kind of then see sort of the latest thing. I go to a lot of exhibitions. I find films really kind of, especially for parties, I think films dictate a lot of the trends. So you kind of I like to look ahead and see what films are coming out next year, because I think that can dictate a lot of people's themes, especially in a conference.
Last year, Peaky Blinders with like the
big
theme,
and everyone wants to do. Yeah, exactly. There's always some kind of that seems to be what people like. Yeah, I mean, on a trend for, I mean, the fashion company I used to work for is a trend forecaster called WGFN. I mean, you have to pay to be part of them, but they've still got some free stuff online, and that's great for what colours they're in, you know, patterns, any sort of inspiration, and again, Pinterest, obviously, oldie but goodie. Love it.
I think also
great for a mood board.
I think other things that are really good are, like, as Jemma said, is exhibitions that are put on at places like the V&A.
V&A, brilliant, yeah.
I mean, if you looked at, and it was a couple of years back, but if you looked at the David Bowie exhibition or the Alexander McQueen exhibition, and the kind of
one.
And the
brilliant exhibition.
But they're all doing them at the moment. They're all doing online tours as well, all the big galleries. So, you know, that you can get in and see them without going up to London.
Paying. Yeah.
Have a look for free online.
Yeah, there's lots of free stuff.
I'm going to ask you one more question. I can see a couple of questions coming in now, and please, everybody, ask more. And one more question is, so what kind of person do you think you need to be good in the events industry?
I just think there's such a range of jobs in the event industry that you can't, you know, you can't tag yourself as me, Naomi and Faye, who are all obviously sort of similar age women. You know, that is not what the event industry is. You know, you have lighting designers who never see the light of day and haven't shaved for weeks, but they're just so super talented in what they do, and it's precision lighting down to, you know, set builders and show callers. There's just so much there that I don't think there's a type of person. You've just got to be willing to work very long hours, overnights, and then do it again the next day. And, you know, there's no 9 to 5 in events. So if you want to go home at 5 o'clock, don't go into the events industry. And if you're being paid till midnight and it looks like you're going to work past midnight, might be a little bit old school, but I would say just go with it, because you'll get it back in spades. If you work till 2 a.m. and the feeling you get when you and your team pull off a project or a build and it's 2 a.m. or you're putting it back in the truck and your client goes, wow, I never expected that. That wasn't what, you know, I knew it was going to be good, but I did not expect that. That's why you do it. And that's why we work overnight and load trucks at 5 o'clock in the morning and have the strangest conversations. I think anyone who works nights or has worked nights doing any job, you form really good relationships with people and have funny conversations. And you do it because you love it. You know, you're not doing it for the money, I'm afraid, people. You know, you do it because you love it. And yeah, I can't remember what the question was now. But
right. I just wanted to sort of add some from my side, kind of running my business. I say, and being on site, I'd say one of the probably attributes or is to be calm. I think you've got to be an event person, even if, you know, your client has changed everything and something has not turned up on site. You just need to remain calm so that everyone, you know, kind of take a minute out. That's really important, because I think if people sort of, you know, you are in a kind of highly stressed environment sometimes, but you know, just don't panic and everything works out. But as Jemma said, I mean, that can't reiterate enough, like working with a team on site and seeing something you've worked, you know, anything from 2 months to 2-3 years on, and seeing that come to life, that feeling makes all that work worthwhile, and you kind of don't mind doing the long days. I don't want to say that you're doing 12-hour days every day for every week of the year. You do get some respite, but you know, when you're working on a project, you do a lot of hours, but it is so worth it. And I just think, and also from my side, I do a lot of client management and handling, so you have to be really organized and a bit OCD and kind of like spreadsheets in the bit that I do. So if you like that, you like doing what I do.
I think staying calm is just so important.
Yeah.
You can all have different personalities.
Yeah.
But under pressure, you have to be calm under pressure, and you have to always seem calm and have that face, even if you're a swan.
Like a swan.
You're doing this.
Yeah.
But you have to be very calm under pressure. And if you don't feel calm under pressure, then that is one thing it doesn't necessarily
exactly.
suit.
And there's normally someone in your team you can kind of step back and go, oh my God, what are we doing? And then kind of talk about it together. You know, you're not ever on your own. But yeah, in front of the wider team. Be calm, and also be open and sort of listen to others. Don't pretend you know it all, because I think something about our careers, we're always learning, expanding ideas, and you know, learning from other people. Be open to those, because that kind of opens your mind to be creative.
Okay, we've got a few questions here, people.
Oh, sorry.
From David Maxwell, he said, you have all asked about the benefits of going to university. You have all talked about the benefits of going to university. Will not having a degree disadvantage you in terms of getting into the event industry?
No. And I also hate to say this, because I know people on here doing event degrees. Sorry, Josh. You know, go in. If you're not going to university, go in all guns blazing, leaving school, and by the time your peers graduate from university, you will be in charge of them. Everyone goes into the event industry at the same time. I worked with, in fact, Naomi worked with her as well, a girl who started work as a receptionist the day after her A-levels finished. She was pretty driven. She knew what she wanted. 6 months after being a receptionist, a job came up a couple of days a week in the main office as a PA for the head person. So she was like, yep, I'll do that. And then when you're in the main office, someone's like, oh, I really need someone to research XYZ. She's like, yeah, I'll do that. And within a year, she was an account exec, or the sort of entry level events person. And over the next 2 years, she just sort of grew and grew. And she left age 21 and went into a project manager role at another agency when her peers were just leaving university. So no, you don't need a degree. You need lots of drive, and you need to know that, you know, if you're going in at entry level, everyone is the same. You know, you're learning not just event things when you take on your first sort of office job. You're learning what it's like to be in an office and working with other people, and you know, how they take their tea and all the things that go with working with a team. And if you do it with a big smile on your face and willing to learn, you can do it straight from school.
Yeah, very much so.
And I like it because it means I can mould.
But university, you know, but equally, university is great time. So either or, you know, I think, yeah, it's whatever you choose, isn't it?
And I think, and then what we're saying at university, and what we would look for as employers at the people at university, as we spoke about earlier, were people that had entered into team environments, and had showed that they'd not just gone to university and stuck their heads down, but they'd been in multiple societies and you know, and got involved. And because those are the kind of people that we would want to employ, it doesn't really necessarily matter what degree you do, but you just got to show that you are willing. And
and that doesn't have to be, you know,
it doesn't have to be an event degree.
No, and it doesn't have to be university societies. If you need to work at university, you know, go off and work for, there's so many different companies, rigging companies. So the local crew who help us unload trucks. If you're feeling strong, you know, sign up with one of them and you'll get loads of just work. They'll phone you up. Are you available? Yes or no. And you'll go and unload a truck at 6 o'clock in the morning. And as I said, meet lots of people. And those are the sort of companies you can work for, or caterers, or the hotels, wherever you are in the country. Those jobs are available.
Yeah.
So Josh, do you want to unmute and ask your question? You don't have to, I can ask it for you.
The dogs are in my room, so I'm scared they'll start barking. But so yeah, so basically, like, since getting like starting as like a production assistant with Blonstein, like I feel like I've slacked on the whole, like, I don't want to get like too comfortable, but I also don't want to be too ahead of myself, trying to constantly grow and just sort of like relax and just have as it is. And like I speak to the freelancers that come in when we do Fashion Week and stuff, and like I say, like, oh, like I'd really like to do like festivals, because I know some of them like work on festivals and stuff. But it's like, how do I turn that conversation into like action without like being a pest? That's sort of, I don't really know, because I don't want to like take too much on. I just don't know whether I'm being like trying to just take everything and just be like, just chill for a minute. I don't really know what to. Yeah.
I mean, Blonstein are great, and you're going to be getting great experience there. And presumably you're still at uni, aren't you?
It's kind of it's quite an intense lifestyle doing uni and also that at the same time.
Yeah.
But
I think stick with Blonstein, and then the festival work. You know, drop people an email, and it's not going to be happening this summer. So, you know, it's all going to be changed next year, and we don't know what's going to be happening. And I think there'll be a big change. But drop people festival work. It's worth dropping people an email in probably March, because that's when people start looking at sort of more junior roles, and then again in June, because actually a lot of the on-site roles you don't start looking at until June, July, or maybe 4 weeks before going on site. And it's hard though, because you know a lot of stuff comes up last minute.
Yeah, I mean,
ready to go for it.
I mean, I think, I don't think you'd be pestering anyone too much. I think it's just about timing. And you know, I don't know, are you going to finish uni next year? Or are you still?
Yeah, I'm starting third year in September. But like, I think our course finishes like April time. So
that would be a brilliant. I mean, that's kind of perfect time for events. And now, because people are quiet, you can sort of build up some contacts, and then in spring next year, send your CV across, get in contact. I think that's perfect. I mean, it's probably not the right time at the moment, but next spring, I'd say never a pest.
That's what I'm also worried about. It's like, it's from like once sort of like within the next year, obviously I'll be coming out of uni, and then like I'm like lucky enough that like I do have that base at Blonstein, but like given there's nothing going on, there's like, it's just like, how do you feel like financially fill all that time in the event work, like if there's not going to be much on? And that's just something I'm a bit nervous about, like given that I'm like starting out and I don't have that huge base of like solid contacts. Are the people like myself that are still like I'm, without sort of tooting my own horn, like I am above the people in my like year group, given that I do have this extra work, without sounding too, oh sorry, I feel like I'm taking loads of time. But it's just like, it's
we can finish this. I was just saying we could finish this conversation offline, because
I'm taking about time.
But I think a good question is, you know, what is going to happen to the events industry in the next year or so? And at the moment, none of us know. I think, you know, we've all got to look out there and see what else, you know, how our skills can sort of diversify out. There's going to be a lot of digital stuff, and I think that's definitely something you guys need to get your head around, because it's going to be the way forward, going forward, and start understanding all the different tech. But yeah, we don't, none of us know.
I still think live events will be, eventually back to, people are always going to get married. They're not going to get married digitally. I just think it might be slightly, but we don't know yet.
Thomas Ward has asked, how closely does the event industry work together with the media industry outside of social media? And the answer is very closely, Thomas. Would you, one of you, want to answer that? I would be talking about experiential events. Yeah.
Do you mean sort of the media as in press?
Well, I've taken that, and Tom, you can come on. I've taken it as in like the PR and media and brand need events as one area of communicating. So everything they do. An example that we've all worked on would be products. For example, all the supermarkets do a Christmas in July to all the media. So this is
all out.
Clothing media, food media, beauty media. So we put on, the event industry puts on massive events in July that invite all the media too, so they can get all their information to be farming out at Christmas time. That's just one example.
Definitely. I think, as you rightly say, it depends. If we're working with a brand to promote something, whether that be promoting a product or they're doing an award ceremony, we work really close with the media, because it's vital to them that they get, they get content from the event that is out that night, that goes into press, online, into publications the next day. So if we're doing, for example, an award ceremony for a brand, we would work alongside their PR company on every step to make sure that everything we were doing worked for their needs. The right people were coming that were going to get press. We had the right branding up for their pictures, work with photographers, help them write their press release with content. So I kind of get it. I guess for an event world, that is then sort of the wider team, isn't it? So we have the production team, we have a PR team. They are. I would kind of class them as part of the event world PR, because a lot of PRs as well don't have their own. I do a lot of events for PR companies because they don't have their own event people in house. So a lot of their brands, they'll want to do a launch party, an alcohol product or red carpet event, and they would come to someone like me to do that for them.
That's great. So George asked, what festivals have you worked within? Gemma.
I've worked at Glastonbury, I've worked at Festival, I've worked at V Festival, which I think Faye has also worked at, and all of them in really different capacities. So, at Glastonbury I worked on the main site production team, but only really on site and a little bit of pre-production. But you go in for a couple of weeks and live in a caravan behind the main stage. And then at Festival and V Festival, I worked for brands who were activating within the festival. So at Festival, I worked for Innocent Smoothies, who were doing a little stand there. And at V Festival, I worked with Virgin Media activating a stage. So we had a whole stage area and had lots of acts like Mark Ronson on our little stage, but it was still on behalf of a brand.
And you, Faye?
And lots of little regional festivals. But...
some of the festivals do not exist anymore, so I won't go there. But V Festival again, I used to organise the backstage area called Louder Lounge, which was, the biggest sponsor was Virgin Media. It became at the time. It was Virgin Media Mobile to start with, and it was a VIP area where it was kind of a mini festival within a festival. So we'd have all our own tents, all our own entertainment, branded, themed entertainment, free drinks. It was our own campsite. We'd be there for 11 days, I think, in total. So it was pretty. They're 30 nowadays. That was lots of fun. And then kind of in Festival, Isle of Wight Festival, British Summertime. It's more taking sort of activations, as Jemma says, like a lot of bar brands like Havana Club, and I do stuff with Verve Clico, so they do quite a lot of festivals. So kind of bar activations, lots of different festivals. It's good, it's fun. Festivals are great. I think they're a great introduction into events. You do have a lot of fun.
Also, they are, I now gone completely blank on his name. Nick might be able to tell me. I had a talent tap boy a few years ago who, Ryan Littlefield, who came up and was a runner for me at V Festival. And he was on radios at V Festival so that I could get hold of him. But whenever someone went, oh, can someone help me with this? Ryan was like, yeah, I'll be there. And he was everywhere he could be, because it meant he could meet more people and chat to them. And on his second, I think he did it 2 years with me, maybe 3, second or third year, like Ryan was the man walking around site. He knew everyone on site. And it was brilliant because it was how he networked. It helped that he knew who all the people on stage were, so that he could, you know, he had something to talk about with whoever the crew were he was talking to. But he, you know, took it as a real opportunity to chat to as many people as he could.
And what about fashion events? Mags has asked.
I mean, when I worked, I've done stuff at London Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week. Sponsorships again, so taking sort of activations. I haven't done catwalk shows myself. Not really something I'm not.
Probably done more than us.
Yeah, I probably have Blonstein.
I did a big activation for Louis Vuitton, which was a Louis Vuitton Series 3, which instead of a fashion show, they did a massive brand activation in central London for a month, which was like an experiential event. So people walked in and understood the brands, like almost like a museum, going through it, because they decided that year not to do a fashion show.
I mean, I did a global fashion awards for 3 years. So that was good fun. Lots of upcoming designers, top designers, big old party. It was fabulous.
But I think also the interest with fashion, especially with like haute couture and top brands, is they are actually thinking of their show when they're designing as well. It's like a real fusion. And if you look at some of the brand activations that are often around London, especially, Burberry do some fantastic things, and and I can't think of any others at the moment, and Chanel as well. But often the people that are designing the shows are really in tune with some of the designers, and some of the bigger kind of like fancier pieces that they do. The one-offs are really for the shows to get that press, and the show is giving them that press really. And so that again shows how fashion and events work with PR and work with the media, and how they all kind of work together, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes. Any other questions from anybody? 8 o'clock, but anyone else got any other questions? No, I don't think. I think I've answered it. I think we've answered everyone's. Yeah. Oh well, that's great. I would just say to Josh that in this industry, I think that if you do get jobs within a company and they are jobs that keep coming back, we all know we're as good as our last job, and and do hold on to them right now. So rather than flitting, if you found a job in the good old company and you can stay with them, you are probably better off doing that in this climate and just gaining experience there and just working, like Ryan Littlefield, as hard as you can to be indispensable. And I think that for all of us, we would say that people who are indispensable are the people that we will always employ.
And also, to be harsh, you cost less than the next man up the ladder. So if you're snapping at his heels and they've got to make a decision on who stays and who goes because it's a tough climate, if you show that you've got the potential to do that job, they might be like, well, Ryan costs less. It's as harsh as that. So, keep in there and keep sort of dogging away at the people above you, because you know, it's a dog eat dog world out there.
Yeah. And network, because
Network.
because it is an industry that if you it is the industry with that little black book, and if you know somebody, you will they'll be phoning you up. That it is still an industry like that. So everyone you meet, keep hold of their contact details, network, and everybody on this call, if you are interested, then I know that Faye and Jem would be very happy to take emails.
And yeah, anything, if you've got any questions, you just want to ask me direct, like afterwards, like happy to help anytime.
I don't know if I have everybody who's on this address, on this Zoominar. I don't know if I have all your email addresses. So if you do want to have Faye and Gemma's contact details, please email me, and you will have that email on the flyer, or ask your heads of sixth form, whoever sent you the information, and I will get you in touch with Jemma and Faye. Thank you so much, guys, for this evening. It was great, really insightful, and we hope that everybody else has found it insightful. Oh, there's one more message. Hold on, one new message.
So
thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
you.
Yeah, but do get in touch. And yeah, it's a tricky time right now for the event industry. So so any help that we can give.
But gatherings are very important. Human interaction is very important. They will come back. We just don't know when.
Yeah.
I think I think all these digital events, to me personally, prove how important events are. They're an alternative. They're not a permanent solution. That's my opinion. They're just an additional.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of evening. Thank you.